you know, truly on the inside, 27-year-old man, so he prefers women over men. But it's like, if you're mean-spirited at all, man, he's not going to have anything to do with you. But if you're nice, he's going to, like all the ladies on our team, he just eats them up. So,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Well, sounds like he's a good judge of character. Just keep him around, just have him around like, okay, well, you're in, you're out. All right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on the last week in mortgage day. We're going to give it like 30 seconds or so. We got a bunch of people that are popping in right now. We were just talking about Keegan and his choices of people that he loves to surround himself with, which is kind of interesting for a 27-year-old autistic person, but he's got some
Well,
good
and
taste.
you're talking about that he has no filter, so it sounds like it's a lot like hanging out with Chris Hippler.
Well, maybe a little bit different than that in a
just,
different way.
just zero filter.
Of you together at conference, which honestly I was going to talk about that a little bit on the show today, so let's just get started.
All
uh,
right.
Thanks everybody for joining us after our little 1 week hiatus of us being at our conference. And Bryan and I are going to talk a little bit about that today as we get going. Excited to be back, excited to be working on some of the things that we heard at conference. Want to pick your brain a little bit. So Bryan Traylor from Centier Bank is with us. You've been with me before, but why don't you just give a little bit of an intro on who Centier is and who you are, what you do within the organization.
Sure. So I run the mortgage department for Centier Bank. We're a $9 billion community bank in Indiana, largest privately owned bank in the state. Um, I've been in the business for, gosh, 20, almost 22 years now. So pretty much all my career. Um, yeah, I think that's about it on me.
Yeah, yeah. And you run the mortgage division. So and Centier has been with us for a period of time. I didn't go back and look at your join date, but you mentioned
Yeah.
Chris Hippler, and seeing the two of you together at conference this time reminded me of the original Collab Lab group
Yeah. Yeah.
that you, that you were all involved in, and some of
That
the funny things that happened within that group when we were together.
that was the best group. I mean, for anybody that had to try to manage or control that group, it was not happening. So I felt kind of bad, but we were a great group together. I mean, sometimes, in the collab lab, we'd get tired of being in that room and we'd all just decide, hey, we're going to go out by the pool. We're just going to and we'd stop by the bar on the way, of course, and pick up some
Minor
drinks. And then
Yeah,
yeah, and then we'd have our collab lab out by the pool, which wasn't terrible.
yeah, yeah. Ashley's agreeing with you. She was one of the people. I was brand new when that group was going on, but Ashley had the pleasure of working with that group from time to time. And she actually said,
Pleasure.
well, she said
Yeah.
great group in the chat. So you, Rob Henger, Bank of England, Chris
Yeah.
Hippler was in that group. So yeah, that was a really great group of people. But every time I saw you together at conference, my mind immediately went back to, oh, that was that lab group that
Yeah, I mean,
had so much
we had
fun.
a great group and great connections and we keep up with each other. I think we've got a regular text string going that we can bounce questions and ideas off each other, some appropriate for work, some not.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, there's always that. But I mean, the good thing is you've stayed in contact with each other over that period of time and you still have those resources. That was kind of just a great explanation of one of the major benefits that people get out of having our collab labs, which we typically do the Sunday.
Hmm.
I always forget it's not Saturday anymore, the Sunday before conference starts. So if anybody on this call hasn't been involved in those and wants more information, just reach out to somebody on the member engagement team. We'd love to chat with you about those. We had 90, I think it was 88 lender members, people participate in labs right before conference.
I mean, they're always a benefit, but I would say especially to like new members, it's a great way to get to know and really get to know some other members in the organization, get some one-on-one time with them through those collab labs.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about conference.
Mhm.
For us, this was kind of a normal sized conference. Our conferences are typically between 300, 350 people. We've had some a little bit bigger than that. Um, Tell me about from conference what your favorite session was. I'm scared to ask this question.
Well, I'll stick to the script. So there's two different answers for this. One is my favorite part is always the conversations at the bar, because while the sessions are great and I go to them, and sometimes those early morning ones might come in a little late on those, but while the sessions are great, the conversations at the bar, you can really get in depth, and if you buy a couple of drinks for somebody, they loosen up a little bit and get more open and transparent in their conversations. So that's always good. But as far as actual sessions, I have to say the strategies for greater reach in your marketing efforts. Don Dawson and Megan Handy were leading that group, and there was a lot of really good information ideas. They planted some seeds in there and had some really good tips. So overall, that was probably the one that I took the most away from just immediately. It was they covered a lot about utilizing social media, which we all utilize it to some degree, but there's always different ways of doing things, and they had a couple of ideas that I hadn't thought of and would not have thought of, and easy to implement and cheap. So
There
that's
you go.
yeah. So that was the one that I walked away from saying, all right, that made the whole thing worthwhile.
Wow, wow, fantastic. I see that Amy Azarandia was agreeing with you about the conversations at the bar.
Yeah.
So she's on here as well. So Amy and anybody else who's on here that was at conference, chime into the chat. I'd love to like get your feedback too on the things that you found available. And kudos out to Megan Handy, only her second conference with us
Hmm.
ever from Embrace and Don Dawson, which I know I'm going to get her name wrong because we have two lender members in the collaborative. One is Mortgage Solutions Financial and one is Mortgage Financial Solutions. Sorry, Don, but it's my
It's
brain.
one of them. Yeah.
My brain gets them mixed up, but shout out to Don for being such a great partner or a great lender member partner and sharing lots of, she was in a number of sessions I was in, and she always has such good insights.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, like I said, very easy to use tips and inexpensive just due to most of it revolving around social media.
Yeah, yep. Um, she also is a jet ski racer or was a jet ski racer and now is a jet ski announcer. So if you want to go out and check it out, people, and meet somebody very interesting and fun in our network, I did an Inside the TMC Family interview with her that's out on YouTube. But
That's really cool.
yeah, she's
Uh,
super, super fantastic. Great
a
gal.
fellow adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, which maybe is why she's good at marketing, right?
Could be.
Inspiring, some of those
Yeah.
feelings in people. Um, okay, so this question, might come into play there, and we always love it when our members that have been in for a period of time, they're always so good about embracing the new people in our network, I feel like, and just like showing them the way through conference and showing them that we're a conference that you come to talk to other people. You don't like,
Yeah.
hide or look the other way when you're walking down a hallway. Did you have a favorite new person that you met at conference that you really
Uh,
kind
you
of,
know, I'm not sure about new person, but I kind of got to know Tom Sullivan a little bit better than I had previously, and he shared some of his secret recipes with me, and that was great. Yeah, took a lot away from that, and still plan to hit him up if he's listening. I do plan to hit him up. He offered me a couple of scripts that I could steal from him. That yeah, I am. always tell people I've never claimed to be the smartest man in the room, but probably am the most resourceful, meaning that I will absolutely steal a great idea. So yeah, Tom and I had, and of course our conversations were at the bar, so yeah, we had some great conversations, but I think, it's a big testament. I've known Stan fairly well. He and I have had some good conversations in the past. But I think Stan and Tom are just kind of like the poster children for great TMC members and people that are always eager to share and collaborate. So kudos to them at over at First Commonwealth.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with you on that. Tom has been involved in a lot of things. Stan always has from the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
Obviously some of our favorite people here.
Yeah, I'm thinking back, and I think when I joined, I think Stan was the first person when I was kind of wandering around the hallway in Chicago at one of the TMC conferences. And I'm pretty sure Stan was like the first person to come up to me like I was just like, this kid needs some help. So he grabbed me and introduced me around. So and he and I on occasion will call each other for a little help when we need. He served, I think it was on the Ohio, or served as the president of the Ohio MBA.
He
And
was,
and
yeah,
I had served as the Indiana Mortgage Bankers president. So he and I shared some ideas and consoled each other a little bit when needed through that experience.
yeah. Stan, it would not surprise me at all. As a matter of fact, that totally makes sense that he was the first person that ran into you and took you under his wing. That
Yeah.
happens to be a strong skill set that he has for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned best takeaway you thought was marketing ideas. Any like cost savings, rev gen ideas that you came out of from conference that you think are worth mentioning here to the group of people on?
I mean, I don't I think some of the simplest ideas are the best ones, and I what I kept hearing the whole conference was customer retention, customer retention, customer retention. And while trigger leads are like a dirty word, and we're all eager to see some sort of legislation on trigger leads, I think that is the simplest route to take on your own book of business. So we're looking into using certified credits, cascade alerts, which was actually what I was talking to Tom Sullivan about, and he offered the scripts that he's using for that. Uh,
Okay.
he he was certified credits best salesperson during the conference. Everywhere I go, I'd hear him talking that up. I'm not sure if Jeff was giving him a little spiff on every deal he sold, but so yeah, we're starting down that path just as we are seeing that it is going to be somewhat of a refi market. I keep telling everybody it's not going to be a boom, it's going to be a fizzle. So
Okay.
we just but every deal we can retain, it's a whole lot cheaper to retain them than to gain new customers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So your predictions for tomorrow is rate day, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and my prediction is going to be the quarter rate cut. I think some people are predicting a half, and I it's possible. It's possible. I think that's more likely than seeing no change.
Yeah.
So but I'm gonna go with the safe money. I'm kind of conservative. I'll go with the safe money and put my chips on 25 basis point
Yeah.
reduction.
Yeah. I think I would agree. I think that is the safer point. I think people are hoping for 50, but but I think that that's probably the safer bet. I think that there's always all kinds of stuff out there in the news. I was reading something recently that they're like 5 cuts by the end of the year. Well, there aren't 5 opportunities to do cuts by the end of the
Right.
year. I'm not quite sure where that came from. So I'm probably more on the conservative side and looking at those things too. I just hope it's
Yeah.
something that's beneficial for our lender members and our partners, because ultimately when our lender members are more successful, that trickles over to our partners as well. I think everybody could use a little happy boost before the end of the year sets in.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of our vendor partners have been diligent with their calls and reaching out. And also, I will give it to them, very understanding that the last couple of years has not been the time to spend a lot of money. So I think some of the vendors that have more shiny objects that are great when the market is hot, they've been extremely understanding that, look, yeah, I'd love to hear you out, but this just isn't the time that I can justify spending that
Yeah,
additional money.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that at this conference specifically, I would have to give a big shout out to everybody who was there at this conference. We had like an unusually gracious and good group
Yeah.
of people with us at conference. We love them all. We call you all members. So whether you're a partner member or a lender member, we want things to, turn out the best for everybody that's involved within the TMC family. So,
And I think it was a lot more optimistic, as
as
far as the tone of the conference. I think, people are seeing the turn. I mean, it's a slow turn. It's not, we're not turning a jet ski at this point. We're turning a barge, So I think people are starting to see the market turn. It's just going to be really slow. And I am, folks that haven't been in the business for that long, loan officers got to, keep explaining to them, look, 2020, 2021, that was not normal.
normal.
We're not gonna get back there anytime soon. So, but I think the market's turning and we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it's always encouraging too that the people in our network, our lender members, I think are, how do I want to say this? It's like they're realistic but also hopeful at the same time, and they're doing things within their business to help make sure that when things do turn, they're
Mhm.
positioned appropriately to be able to, I mean, it's a feast or famine. It always kind of has been.
Yeah,
So they are taking this time really to do all of the right things to position themselves to be able to take advantage
yeah,
of things as they turn, even if it is a fizzle.
yeah.
Take
Hey,
advantage of it
I'll
for the
take a
period
fizzle.
of
I'll
time.
take a fizzle.
I'm I'm liking the word fizzle. At conference, there are always funny things that happen. Favorite funny moment, favorite funny thing that happened at conference. There's got to be at least one for you.
Oh,
You're a great
there.
storyteller.
This is without a doubt. This is an easy one for me. So Melissa, your fearless leader.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Get me in trouble
When
here.
Oh, I know. I'm absolutely going to get you in trouble here. You asked the question and I'm going to give you an answer. So when Melissa and Rob were on stage, what were they doing? The weekend, what were they were
Uh,
doing?
the rundown. They
The
do the
rundown. Yeah, yeah.
stage. Yep.
So when Melissa and Rob were up on stage doing the rundown, and sweet, sweet Melissa, and God bless her, she might just be a little bit naive, but she was talking about trying to predict what was coming, and she asked Rob if he had brought an 8 ball with him to the conference. There were about 6 of us in the front row of that one that our minds didn't go to the 8 ball that you shake and yeah, we were thinking a different kind of 8 ball, and we were all just cracking up, and she's looking out going, what? So her reaction to not getting what we were laughing at was just as funny as her asking Rob if he brought an 8 ball to the conference.
I was not in the room for that one,
Yeah.
so the new one for me, but that
And
is
and if there's any other innocent folks out there that don't know what I'm talking about, you can go ahead and Google what's an 8 ball. I wouldn't do it at your work computer, but
like a good idea. Probably not a good idea, especially
yeah,
for anybody that knows that they have any sort of tracking on that might cause a little bit of concern.
you might get one of those random drug tests.
Very quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very quickly. We had a keynote speaker there. I would just love your feedback on him, but I'm going to ask you the magic 8 ball. Yes, Nancy, is very different than an 8 ball.
It is. It is.
Um, we had a speaker there who talked about like your mindset and everything at conference. I always think it's good to mix in some non-mortgage stuff with mortgage people because I think we hear mortgage stuff all the time, right? But
Yep.
learning how to train your mind and do things a little bit differently. He joined. So my question for you related to that session, jump or not jump during a keynote speaker? Were you in the room for our keynote?
I was jump or not jump. I'm
Like
failing you here.
up and down.
Oh yeah, I
Make sure
was
not jump.
I did not jump. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I was standing next to Erin D, and I was giving her a hard time. I'm like, "What? You're not jumping?" She pointed out she had on yeah, high heels. It made it a little difficult, and yeah, I had no excuse other than I'm fat and old, and yeah, just my knees can't take it.
Yeah, I thought that was one of my favorite pieces of conference at all because I was at the front of the room looking back at the audience, and it's always so refreshing. I mean, to see our peers, I guess, and mortgage people just in general doing something that you would have never imagined they do. But like I would say 80% of the audience got up and jumped.
Yeah.
Um, and I was pleasantly surprised about the level of
I
participation in that.
I had a good 10 seconds of jump in there, but I couldn't do like he said it was going to be what 45 seconds, and I think it ended up being like 3 minutes. It seemed like I just was like, I 10 seconds, that's all I had in me.
Any other, before we turn to a different topic, any other things from conference that you think that for those of you that are having a little bit of FOMO now that maybe weren't with us or anybody in the chat, things that you think that were important that were discussed while there that everybody should know about?
You know what? I'm sure there were things that other folks found important, but there another great session that I was in was actually one that Josh Katz was leading, which was the all about data and how to use your data and how to get your data and how to make sure your data is accurate. Yeah, that was valuable. I think if folks are not actively using their data or working on a method to use their data to enhance their businesses, they are not doing themselves any favors. They're just making it harder than it has to be.
Yeah. And some of that goes back to trying to retain your pipeline too. If you're not looking at the data that of things that are in your pipeline and what's going on there, you may have some lost opportunities
Absolutely.
as well by not knowing. Um, somebody posted in the chat, honestly, don't forget about Meow Wolf and Red Rock's trading post as our
Uh,
outside events.
Meow Wolf was really cool. Yeah, that was really cool. I enjoyed that a lot. Red Rocks was awesome too. I would have liked to have gone in and actually seen a concert in there. Maybe next time. But yeah, both of those were really cool. That Meow Wolf, if anybody's ever been to like the St. Louis, what is it, the City Museum, it's kind of like that, only fluorescent. It's it's just an interesting. uh, It might be a convenient place for Melissa to take that 8 ball. It might make it a little bit more interesting for her.
I went in there totally sober, and that was my initial, which is kind of sad that that was my thought process when I went in there, but I thought this would be a completely different experience if you weren't
Yeah,
than if you are, because it's just crazy. Anybody who has not had the opportunity to go to a Meow Wolf exhibit, I think there are 6 or 8 of them across the country.
yeah.
Um, check it out in the cities that they are in for sure. And both of those were great events sponsored by our partners and much appreciated by the team. It's always fun to get outside of the conference space and enjoy some things in the local environment where you're at for sure.
Yeah.
So about 6 minutes left. We're going to talk about one thing that actually is like work related that I sent over to you that I thought was really interesting, and I thought that you would think it was interesting too. So for those of you who don't know or who don't follow Bryan on Facebook, if you don't watch his posts, you can imagine the humor that both you and your wife are actually quite funny people.
It's usually at my expense, though.
Well, that's what a wife is supposed to do, right?
Well,
Um,
she's nailing it.
she does. She does. And you are very involved, or have been very involved in your local government there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
served 8 years on the town council. Just ended my last term. I decided not to run for a third term, so I retired from the town council in January.
okay. All right. So you're a little bit away from it, but probably still stay in tune with everything going on in your town.
Sure.
So I ran across this article and I thought Bryan Traylor is the best person to talk about this article with, just because you are heavily involved in local government. And really the basis of the article, it started out by saying it was published by The Atlantic, who's responsible for the housing crisis. And the whole article was really focused on local versus federal government,
Yeah.
um, and who really has like the biggest, um, I would say influence, I guess, and then who has the biggest attention. So I would love to get like your initial thoughts in
Sure.
having read this article.
I would say that after my 8 years in local government, I would say that if you want something run extremely inefficiently and messed up, go ahead and get the government involved. You're not doing yourselves any favors if the more government we have. So from this perspective, we've got a situation going on locally here in the central Indiana market where our builders association has a federal lawsuit against a local town. And
Wow.
it's all based around like the town was trying to, there's a lot of their residents that wanted to see them stay a small town, but
Right.
they are on the edge of Indianapolis, and growth just happens that way, and
Yeah.
pressures start to build up. So they raised a lot of their fees for builders, and they raised them to such a point that they came right out and said, "Hey, if somebody's going to build here, it's going to cost them." And they went to such an extreme that the Builders Association actually filed a federal lawsuit against them. So that's going on right now. So in cases like that, yeah, local government has a huge, huge impact on housing and what can happen locally. Other areas that town government or city government gets has some implications is uh, we're always talking about entry level homes. Well,
Right.
my the town I live in is fairly affluent, and they have rules against no vinyl siding, and just a lot of, and some square footage requirements and density. So they put all of these requirements in to build in particular towns that make it to where you can't build an affordable home in that home or in that town. Also think that some of the housing crisis, if you will, that's coming about is expectations from the most recent uh, first-time home buyers. Nobody wants a entry level home anymore. They want to go straight to, and I think social media has something to do with that, to be honest with you. I think people want to show off on Facebook and they see, hey, that guy, I work with that guy, and he has a beautiful house. And what they don't know is that, yeah, and his last name is Trump, and he's got all kinds of money, and they don't understand all the everything that came with that person having that beautiful home. So I think the some of it is people not wanting that first time house, and then from a federal standpoint, we had, and this was I can't say we're not to blame, but we've had a housing shortage since, the
long
for a
time.
long, long time, and it got really bad after 2008.
Yeah,
And we have not recovered from that. And my thought is the only way that we're going to get out of this is going to be manufactured housing. And I've said that for several years now, but I think that's the only way we're going to get out of this. And that's going to be the first time entry level home. And people are going to have to start accepting that and accepting that, hey, you may not be able to move into the town that you want to out of the gate. That may be something you have to work up to.
yeah.
But those are easier conversations for us to have than to tell a borrower when they sit down and, they talk about their, $15 an hour paying job and that they want to buy a $500,000 house.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that some of it is not only social media driven, but I also think that there's just a different thought process around housing and what people want it to be who are of a different age than what I am for sure. And I think you see it initially when they're renting apartments.
Yeah.
If they're renting apartments, because at least in the Twin Cities where I'm at, the apartments that have a lot of younger individuals that you would think of as like the next people um, moving into their first homes, they have tons of amenities, like unusual amounts of amenities. And when I was initially looking for a house, I mean, I felt very grateful that I ended up with the first home that I ended up with, but we were looking for four walls and a place to
Yeah.
start a family
Yeah.
and that type of thing. And I think that it's just a different thought process and our style of living sometimes. The one thing that I want to mention before we go that was in this article is that that they talked a little bit about people not being able to go to the places where the best economic opportunities lie for that family, where, that's the type of community they're looking for. But because of that, those individuals are unseen. So once you start digging into that, the bigger problem this article kind of pointed out is that the those individuals that we're trying to attract into some of those communities aren't even in those communities at all because
Right.
they don't have the opportunity to live there, right? And I
Right.
think that's probably more disturbing to me than
Yeah.
anything else. I see we have a comment in the chat. If that is true on manufactured homes, they need to change building standards for those of us in Tornado Alley. Oh, Kelly, yes.
Yeah.
We originate a lot of them, but mainly on acreage. Yeah, I can relate to that. You're kind of in the middle of the United States too, where you may see some of those.
Yeah. I live literally in the middle of a cornfield, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're at the end of time. It always goes by so fast. I
Yeah.
always appreciate you doing this with me. Super fun today, just talking about some of the things that we came away from conference. Appreciate you. I was so happy to see you there. I was so happy to see that you got Chris Hippler there with you. Um,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
exciting for me to see him. Hadn't seen him for a while, and I hadn't seen the reg list in the last couple of days. That I was very grateful that he came and saw the two of you together enjoying yourselves. So
Yeah. And I would tell anybody that's watching that if you're not attending the conferences, then you're not getting your money's worth out of the organization. It's very much worthwhile to attend and make those connections.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. People always come out of it with a lot more than when they came into it. And even if it's just refilling your tank a little bit and understanding, I think it Stan that always says, yes, it's his mental health conference. It's the conference that he goes to
To
that he
find out
always,
he's not in it alone. Yeah.
he's not crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Bryan, for
All
always being
right.
willing to do this with me. Appreciate you a lot. Let us know what we can do for you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.